you're not going to be causing extra harm to your cause. That's important, and that's good to have the sort of secure spot to talk about these things. Maybe if you're cool and you get on the double secret probation list, you can find the rant spot that Leslie's talking about. But these are important discussions to have about who you're trying to communicate with.
Hey, another thing, I wanted to just jump in here. Whenever you are talking in a thread with somebody, and maybe you're debating a liberal, maybe you're just having regular conversation about an issue, there are tons of people who can potentially see what you're doing, who might be apolitical, but something might have caught their eye. Or maybe the way that, say, Facebook is structured, your comment will show up in their feed even though they're not following the thread. And onlookers that you will never know saw that. And so it's when you're debating a liberal, you're not trying to convert the liberal, you're trying to influence the audience watching, the people in the gallery. When you're having a conversation that's internal and you put that in an internal place, then you can be more free about how to express yourself, I think, and maybe use language that you wouldn't want to use in a broader term. It's a situational awareness thing, and making sure that what you're doing is not causing harm, because your higher value is winning and communicating effectively, which is higher than I'm going to emote, I'm going to vent, I'm going to say what I want to say, and consequences be damned.
Okay, so Fishy just laid out all the right ways to do it, and I'm serious. That is positive. That is uplifting. That is exciting. That's a conservatism that we wake up in the morning wanting to be part of. I want to go back for a second and ask JD to spend a few moments, if he would, describing the term the rage treadmill. That was wonderful. Did you come up with that, or is that like you see it somewhere? Because if there is one thing that is burning out and really killing the productivity of the conservative movement, holding it back, it's what you just described.
Yeah, actually, that was me, as far as I'm aware. Fishy and I were talking about this yesterday. Not yesterday. I don't remember when it was. We were talking about this and talking about the resolutions, particularly the next couple that we'll be hitting on. And it sort of the visual came to me that this is what happens. You have activists, you have people who want to do stuff to get stuff done, but they get sort of drawn into the perpetual outrage mode, and what happens is that it's burning hard every second, and you're outraged, you're really ticked off. We have to get these bums out, throw out these bums. There's a lot of bums being mentioned, and schmucks and other things, and you can't sustain yourself on that. You can't. You just burn out. It's not going to. You can't go. You're not achieving anything. You're not getting anywhere. All you're doing is you're being perpetually ornery. It's not healthy. It's not helpful. And what do you have? What can you show for your work after X amount of time? What are you actually? What tangible change have you gotten? It's very, very hard to see anything, and at that point you're really disheartened because you've been putting your heart and soul into this. You hate the left. You hate these liberals. You've been doing what the people that you trust in the media have been saying to do. You're angry. You're outraged. You're ready to start fights. Ready to get into this. Call out these libtards for who they are. These Democrats, that's what it is. I'm sorry, I was trying to find I knew there was rats in there somewhere. I had to find it, but that's it. And yeah, please go, Cori.
Just going along with what you're saying, if we as die-hard conservative political junkies get exhausted by this, how do people who are like our friends who want to be involved but don't have the time, or people who are just casually interested, how is that going to affect them?
It's going to destroy. I mean, any interest that they might have evaporates.
Yeah, they're going to walk into that meeting and they're going to be like, whoa, where did these people come from? What am I doing here? These people are scary. And the other thing that you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of high turnover in those types of group meetings. Yeah, you might be averaging 70 people per meeting, but when 55 to 60 of them are new every single month, that tells you maybe there's something going on that you're just not realizing.
Yeah, I mean, look, we get to the point where very quickly with a meeting, we don't want to go back. If that's all it becomes is rage against the machine, rage against the leadership, rage against this, we don't want to go back. My goodness. And I like rage. I mean, I'm into it. I rage all the time, and it burns me out. So what's it doing with the average person who is not, politically inclined all the time like me? We must be driving them away by the millions.
And you were talking about burnout, Cori. It's so true. It's exhausting, but it's also breeding hopelessness. And people who don't believe that there's a way to fix things will give up. And we don't need that. We need people focused on what we can do. We're not going to be able to change everything, and we're certainly not going to be able to change everything right away. But we don't want to suck the very little bit of energy that most people who've been on this ride for years now have left. We need them to be able to access things, to find things that they can do, actions they can take, so that they get some victories, so that they continue to be able to be involved. If you suck the energy and the life and the will out of them, they will go home and they will not come back.
And we can't afford to lose anybody. We cannot afford that. And I know brass alone. Peter Ream, who was on last week, can attest to this. He had this happen to him where he was burnt out. He couldn't participate in politics for a long time because, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, it is so incredibly disheartening to have this kind of crap pile up and you can't do anything. It's just it's awful. And the outrage, it poisons you. It's not helpful. It doesn't accomplish anything, and it just makes you look like an angry person. You play into the liberal stereotype.
Yeah, and I think the other thing it does, because we've been on this side of it too, is it really disheartens your leaders. We were district captains back in 2012, and no matter what decision we made, there was always a critic, and some of them were not very nice about it. And so when you've got both sides of it, when you're constantly criticizing people who are trying to make changes and who are trying to make things better, and you're not offering positive alternatives, that's another way that we can really suck the life out of a movement.
Oh, absolutely. As a leader who has faced all manner of frustration and irritation and outrage from people over any number of things that I've said or done, if people, just knew your heart, they would know that you're trying to help. And very few people do, in fact, want to lead. And so people thrust in that position, it's very, very difficult to take that in on a regular basis and be called all sorts. Yes, Rhino Corn, thank you, JD. To be called all sorts of names and have all sorts of attacks against them. If I am a leader and I'm helping to fight for your freedom and you have nothing positive to say or no way to help me, you are going to suck the very will to fight out of me. I'm going to let you go do you, and I'm going to go do me.
And that's key. You can't change other people, and that's one of the things I want to remind myself of throughout 2015. I can only change me and how I act and behave and react. And that means that I can't change the people who are negative or who are the ranters. I can simply ignore them, which is the and because I can't change them, so arguing against them and trying to convince them to not be that way is going to be a lot less effective than just ignoring them and being what I want to be. And if they want to follow and copy and be that same way, great, because maybe they discover that I'm very successful at it. That would be awesome. Really awesome. Just so you know, I think that would be awesome. Anyway, but all I can do is I can put the positive stuff out there and ignore the negative stuff rather than saying, no, you can't put this negative stuff here or trying to take it away. I can just smother it with more positive stuff and be the positive, interesting, informative, educational resource that people have, and not get so bogged down in paying attention to other people and their negativity. Because there are always going to be negative people out there and ranters. And they are not the majority of the population. They aren't people that I have to pay attention to. I can just walk on by.
And they're highly principled. However, their principles are not really winning us anything. They're not getting us in any seats. They're not. They're rants. No. But winning is something that we need to do if we want to succeed with those principles. So winning itself is a principle, which is another one of our resolutions. So that, yeah, winning is a principle.
If you are not if somebody is not willing to, how do I put this? One thing that really frustrates me a lot with a lot of conservatives is they separate themselves from any chance of winning. They either isolate themselves in third parties or they stay and only try to divide. Look, it's just like with gravity. Gravity is a principle. It's a natural law also. But, I mean, you cannot do anything in life while ignoring gravity and saying that doesn't matter. All right? Gravity is always going to matter. Winning in politics is gravity. If you don't win, you can't advance any of the agenda you say you believe in. So you can't say, I don't care if I win, I'm only going to be principled. If you say that, you're not being principled. You must win. You must find ways to win. You must at least try to win. If you don't try to win, you're not principled. Because you're saying flat out, I want all my principles to become nothing but slogans that are put up on a wall somewhere. Well, then you must not believe in them much. Conservatives have to start they need to start understanding, look, we can only win because the left is so numerous. There are so many Democrats. We can only win if we work together. And we can't work together if we each demand full agreement with us, with each one of us. Therefore, we must find a way to win together, collectively. If you do not believe in the principle of winning, you don't believe in principle, because you won't advance any.
Absolutely not. Political cover.
You mean intellectual cover, or?
I'm sorry, intellectual cover. That's where we were supposed to be going with that. Sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. I mean, that's a different direction. We can go there. That's talking about the. That's talking basically about liberals. I wrote an article called Intellectual Cover, and what I was doing was, a lot of people, when we saw the two cops who got killed in New York, a lot of people handled it a lot of different ways. Some people said, well, it was the killer, his fault, nobody else was to blame at all in any way, shape, or form. Okay, and it's not to blame anybody else. Well, I basically agree with that. As a conservative, I only feel that the person who pulled the trigger is to blame. I like to hold people accountable for their decisions and not take the blame off them and put it on those who might influence them. However, that doesn't mean that we look at those who influence them and let them off the hook. I'm not going to put them in jail. I'm not going to hold them accountable for the crime, but I am going to call them out. See, here's my big problem. When you disrupt the left, you are disrupting a very dangerous group. Virtually all killing comes from the left. It's true. Okay, be it leftist regimes around the world, be it street crime, be it even killers at high schools and stuff. How many of them are NRA or Tea Party members? The simple